Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to St Mary's, Perivale. This is an extra concert and a rather sad one. It's a memorial concert in memory of Patrick Magill, who had planned this concert actually before his sudden and tragic passing. He was a key person at St Mary's, Perivale for about 5 years, a hell of a nice guy. And we were all desperately fond of him. And he did a lot behind the scenes in terms of captions for our videos, helping to install a lot of the equipment and being heavily involved in all the considerable technical activity that goes on in this church to provide these broadcasts. And I'd actually known him for 40 years rather than 5 years by coincidence, and he was a close friend. And he'd been ill for some time, but his death came as quite a shock to all of us, and we're all grieving. But he would want the show to go on. And so we're putting on the concert that he'd actually planned. Now, he was crazy about wind music. He played the bassoon very well, and had lessons with Rosie here. I gather he was a fairly keen pupil, had about 6 bassoons. He was crazy about the bassoon and wind music in general, and we've already put on 3 or 4 wind concerts. This one had been planned as a sort of extravaganza, and halfway through there's going to be a little Mozart duet that he wrote with Rosie. So the whole concert is dedicated to Patrick's memory, which will live on. I think that's enough to say at the moment, but that's the background to this concert. And I'm very grateful to the Aristos, this wind ensemble behind me, who you can read about on the captions and on the website, for coming and putting on this lovely program. There's wind quintet music, then a duet, as I say, for bassoon. Then at the end, we're doing the Mozart piano and wind quintet, which is one of the great works of all chamber music, not just wind. Mozart said he thought it was his best piece, and so we're playing that at the end in memory of Patrick. Right, the wind quintet are going to play a piece by Poulenc now. Thank you.
Welcome all, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us, or those who are watching in the next studios, thank you for joining us. That was a beautiful arrangement of a piano piece by Poulenc, one of his Novelette. He wrote 3 of them. That one's been arranged by Geoffrey Emerson very beautifully. It's one of our go-to favourite pieces as a quintet. Really beautifully written. A little bit about Poulenc. Obviously, many people have heard of him in relation to perhaps Les Six, the group of French composers in the early 20th century. In my mind, he was kind of the most, probably the most famous, but certainly the one who kind of embraced this neoclassical feel, so harking back to the previous ages the most, and most successfully, and certainly wrote beautiful melody. So we love that piece. Now, we're going to play 3 pieces by Elgar next. 3 miniatures arranged by John Newhill, who's a bassoonist, I believe. 3 pieces, so Chanson de Matin, La Capricieuse, and Salut d'amour, which is probably the most famous of his pieces, all written originally for violin and piano. Really very cleverly arranged, again, brings out the kind of quintessentially English Elgar that we all know and love. The Chanson de Matin, obviously very famous enchanting melody, leads on to the Capricieuse, which I had to look up the definition of capricious, which means impulsive, unpredictable, and liable to change one's mind, which takes me back to spending some quality time with my lovely quintet. Anyway, just not, of course not. Anyway, and then the third movement obviously moves on to his arguably most famous composition, Salut d'amour. So hope you enjoy them.
So I'd just like to introduce the next piece for everybody. My name's Rosie, and I have been teaching Patrick. He contacted me in about 2019 to buy some reeds, and actually Julia was the contact, which is why it's really lovely to invite Julia to play with me today. And he was looking for some bassoon reeds. So I sent him some bassoon reeds, and he then asked for a bassoon reed adjustment lesson. And that led into us then having some bassoon lessons last year. We ended up having weekly lessons just before lockdown started, lockdown 1. I was allowed to go to his home and teach him. And then when lockdown started, we went onto Zoom, started having lessons on Zoom, and we were trying to work out the best way to make music together. And we decided together that I could record some backing tracks for him. So we played some duets together with me pre-recording the backing tracks for him to play along with. And that's actually developed into quite a big teaching resource now for quite a lot of my pupils. Even the beginners, Patrick has supported me in recording lots of backing tracks for people to play along with. And it kind of developed into him wanting to actually make his own arrangement. Also fed into this Thursday night, the clap for NHS. In the summer, musicians were invited to play on Thursday nights in their streets, and Patrick started playing with some of his neighbours and started doing some arrangements. One of them was the piece we just played, Salut d'Amour, so we worked on that a little bit together, his part to play with his neighbours. And he got more and more involved in the arrangements, and came up with the idea, how about we write an arrangement of a suite of movements from the opera by Mozart, Marriage of Figaro. Julia and I are going to play one of the movements. There are 5 in total that Patrick and I have arranged. We're just going to play the first movement, which is from the end of the first act. I have a few really fond memories of teaching Patrick. He was always interested in my career and how it was working as a musician in lockdown. Obviously, we had our Zoom lessons. I was helping him play through some of the Bach cello suites, arranged for bassoon, as well as these duets. And when we were allowed to, in the summer, I was allowed to go and play in the garden with him. Obviously, very weather dependent. We had to be very flexible. And we managed to keep playing in the garden until October, when we both decided it really was very, very cold. We were all wrapped up in scarves and gloves. I have one particular memory when we were working on the final edits for this arrangement. It was sunny, but it was windy, and the full arrangement has about 20 pages of manuscript, and a massive gust of wind came along, and 20 pages of music went flying off down the garden, and Patrick busily went running down the garden to collect all the bits up and try and get them back in the right order so we could carry on playing. So, enough introduction, I think. We will now play the first movement of this arrangement. I just want to introduce Julia to you. Julia is my former student, so it's really exciting to get to play some music with her again. She's now studying at the Royal College of Music, and she also knew Patrick. He was involved in the concerts here with Ealing Youth Orchestra when Julia was a member of the orchestra. So she helped introduce Patrick to me as well, so it's a really nice cycle.
Marvellous. Now, we come to, some would say, the meat of the sandwich. We are lucky enough that Hugh has very kindly joined us to play, in my eyes, certainly one of the best pieces of chamber music you can play as a wind player. As Hugh already said, Mozart himself did say he considered it to be the best work he's ever composed. There's an introduction. He said, that Mozart, that is, it is written for one oboe, one clarinet, one horn, one bassoon, and the piano. How I wish you could have heard it, and how beautifully it was performed. To tell the truth, I was really worn out in the end after playing so much. And it's great credit to the listeners that they never got tired. So there's a challenge for you. Now, this came at a really interesting time, output-wise for Mozart. This was the time when he was writing a great deal of piano music. And really, you could class... piano concerti, I should say. You could really class this as a piano concerto, as I'm sure Hugh would agree with. A piano concerto with wind accompaniment. It kind of has that lovely chamber feel, but at the same time has a concerto structure. So you'll hear the first movement starting with a nice slow largo introduction, followed by a quicker allegro, and then, as always, a slower middle movement where Mozart always shows off his incredible lyrical ability to write melody. As you just heard with the opera music, it's kind of it's one and the same for us. To be able to play Mozart is like great singers would sing in an opera house. But it's a real treat. So a lovely larghetto with beautiful long melodies, and then a kind of sonata rondo final movement, which has almost a kind of a little cadenza in it towards the end. Something to listen out for. This, for us, is kind of the only... that Beethoven also wrote a piano quintet like this, but in a way he really mimics the style that Mozart had brought before him. So Mozart Quintet is really an absolute masterpiece and a real kind of watershed in that genre. So we do hope you enjoy it. It's been an absolute treat again to play in such a beautiful church. Hopefully very soon people will be back in to hear music live, but thank you hugely to Hugh. It's been lovely. So enjoy the Mozart.
Well, that really is one of the immortal masterpieces of the whole of chamber music, certainly of wind music. And it's a real pleasure for me to play it with such wonderful players. Sheer joy. I agree with Mozart, it's one of his best pieces. And if you enjoyed it as much as we did, I think it was a fitting tribute to Patrick. He would have loved it. And if you've enjoyed it, you know what you can do. Please go to our website and donate. It's quite an expensive afternoon with all these wonderful wind players. So if you can contribute something, it'd be much appreciated in memory of a great man, someone who we're deeply fond of. Sad, but this is a nice way to recognize him and acknowledge all he did for this wonderful church. Hope you've enjoyed this afternoon. On Sunday afternoon, we have the Goldberg Variations, played by Jonathan Ferrucci at 4 o'clock. Lots more coming up after that. Thank you very much for being with us on a special occasion, and thank you to Aristos and all you wonderful wind players. Come again. Good afternoon.